Hello, and welcome to another week. I hope everything's well where you are and that you managed to get some art time over the weekend. I want to talk to you about swatch books today and why I keep them. It's not what you think. And I've got a very small art haul of pens here to put in to show you what I do with them. But before I do, I have something else I want to show you, which is quite exciting. And that is this little bird project that I'm working on at the moment. I'm building blackbirds. And as you probably know by now, I'm a mixed media artist and I love all things mixed media, which includes paper collage, and it was a very long time coming. So yeah, just to show you what I am actually doing here, I'm going to build a spring collage with these. And yeah, so that's coming up in a short while. I don't know, I'll probably do something with it on here. I will definitely be doing something with it on my Patreon. In fact, next Friday, it's February here at the moment, but next Friday will be the second part of my collage tutorial on Patreon. So if you're into this sort of thing and you would like to learn it and would like to get into this sort of thing, do check out that Patreon video and stand by for the next one, because the next one is we're going to be constructing a seagull. So you can see what I do here, and I'm going to use a slightly different method as well because there's a couple of ways of collaging. So yeah, just to let you know, and if I put my correct glasses on, that would also be good. Yeah, it's better. See something now. Just to let you know, we're going to be building birds, and it'll be seagulls on a nice background that we prepared last week, but the videos are all up there, so if you would like to check that out on my Patreon, you will be good to go for bird making. But I just love these. It's just so textural, so full of glue as well. It's so textural and as realistic as I can possibly make a bird made out of white card, because that's all it is. And yeah, I found a great way of, I actually like this method better than some of the others that I do. So I've got two methods I like. So I'll show you. The first one, like I said, it's up there and you can have a look at it if you would like to. Okay, swatch books is the subject today. What is a swatch book? Well, as the name implies, it's a book where you can swatch your things into. Now, okay, let me take swatching from the ground up. Swatching is a great thing. It's very relaxing. It's lovely to watch, but it's 2/3 useless unless you swatch on several different lots of paper. So for example, if I was to swatch into this cheap paper, this is Daler Rowney A5, about 140 GSM paper. And if I was to swatch into this, but then work on, say, some toned Strathmore paper, it would look entirely different. It's not, one swatch does not fit all. So don't be enticed by some things where people will swatch and say this is what this material looks like. That is what that art material looks like on that paper only. If they swap to something radically different, it'll look different. Okay, if the switch is not radically different, so for example, supposing they swatch onto Daler Rowney 140 GSM and they might use a Daler Rowney 300 GSM, it won't look too much different. But if you go to a radically different thing, like a really textured, cold pressed, handmade watercolor paper, or like I said, a Strathmore toned grey or tan toned paper, it will not look anything like you're expecting. So I use my swatch books. Yes, I swatch my stuff in there, but I do something slightly different. I have something called full set syndrome, which is a completely made up psychological thing. And what it just simply means is I've got to have all the colours in all the shades, in all the things. I think there's quite a lot of us like that. So when I go to the art store, in order to try and keep the costs down, I like to have a swatch book so that I know what I've got already. And that's simply what this is. This is a visual reminder. For example, Let's take just a page at random. These are my Derwent drawing pencils, and I have swatched them in. There's not a huge colour range at the moment. I have kept some area back here in the vain hope they will introduce more colours. They may do. They do occasionally. They've just done it with Inktense and I think Lightfast as well, so it could happen. But what I've done here is I look at this and I know that I have initially bought all of the colours, so there's no new colours for me to try. However, if you have a look at the actual thing, I just grab my pen pot here, some of them are getting down and I've used them a bit. Others not so much. Some of them are practically new. Others are getting to the point where they need to go into this little pencil extender. This is a Derwent one because these Derwent Lightfast, for example, in this case, are a bit thicker than normal pencils or other pencils. See my Caran d'Ache and so forth. I don't know if you can appreciate that thickness difference, but yeah, it's tiny. However, it means that with this is a Lyra, I believe. Yeah, that's a Lyra pencil extender, and it won't fit the Derwents because it's just that little bit, they're just that little bit too thick. So I've got a Derwent one for that. And these are great when you get down to a little stubby, nubbly bit because you can't draw very comfortably with it, whereas with this, you're back to drawing with a pencil that fits your hand because the pencil has to rest on this part of your hand in order for you to make reasonable strokes with it and do what you've got to do. So these are great. So anyway, back on topic. As you can see, some of these are getting down and others aren't. However, I've got no new colours to try, so I have the full set. Everything I buy from now on will be a replacement. So when I go to the art store, I look at my shorter pencils and say, well, I use a lot of that. And because I like to buy my things so that I don't have to pay postage, so I will buy 100 euros worth because then I get free postage because postage is about 7 euros. And when you look at these pencils being about 2 euros 20 each, you can get almost 3 pencils for free for the postage. I know that's ridiculous because I'm not getting, I mean, the postage, he's bringing it to my door in all weathers. I understand that's worth something. However, they're still getting paid. It's the art shop that's not claiming the money back. So, you know, I'm getting some free things because I buy quite a lot. Yeah, so that is what my swatch book is for. So it's not actually for finding out how the materials look on the paper, although that is a side effect. It's also for knowing what I've actually got. So, you know, I've got my Inktense pencils, and usually what I do and how I do this is I will go onto the art store where I buy most things and I'll have a look at what order they list them. And as you can see here, I'm missing a cadmium yellow. It wasn't available when I was buying, so I've still got to get that. And violet blue and dark cerulean seem to be out. Oh, and gold. So I've got a few gaps here. And see, this is the point. I've got a situation with my Derwent Graphite tints where I've bought the same colour green 4 times because I'd convinced myself I hadn't got it. I looked at what was on there. I thought, oh, I love that green. I have to have that. So I bought it 4 times. If I had have just looked in my swatch book and said, I've already got it, I could have even written in ×3 or something to know that I've already made the mistake 3 times. You know, people learn from their mistakes. Not always. So that's why I use this. It's a kind of a visual catalogue. And as you can see it all laid out. You can see the nice photos, good grief. It's Monday. You can see the nice swatches and I can see what the colours are. I can see where there are gaps. These were the new colours that they put in this year. And so what I do is I'll go to their store and I will list them down in the order they've got them. Then I fill them in the order that I have them. And what's left are things that I would like to buy. So certain colours that need to be purchased. And I find this works really, really well because I have a lot of art things. And again, I've just filmed a tour of my art space. I've just updated it. So again, all that's on my Patreon. It's quite a long one, that one. And yeah, all of the different things that I've got. These are my Lyra Aqua Brush markers. I don't have a lot of those. I would like to get the full set because I kind of have to. And then my Tombos, again, I build them up as I see them. I think, yep, I'd like those. Graphite tints, and sometimes just do other weird and wonderful things in the spaces. Ecoline liquid watercolour and my Caran d'Ache Supracolor watercolour pencils. They're great because although I adore Inktense, and I use those for these birds actually, my black birds that I showed you first off, they are made with Inktense pencils and all those lovely colours in them. However, they don't have a nice pastel range, so sometimes you want a pastel blue for a sky, so that's where I put in another one. And these Supracolor, which I don't think are actually, yeah, and the Albrecht Dürer, they've also got some nice paler blues. So those, I haven't wet them out actually, which I possibly could do, but I haven't yet. But these are all watercolour pencils, which I'm building up my selection. So that book's almost finished, apart from the little gaps. So of course that meant I have to start another one. And these are my Mungayo Gallery pastels that I'm getting down. And again, as I go to the art store, I will pick, say, 10, and I'll buy 10 of them, put them in. You can see I love warm earth tones. That's where all of my colours are clustered in every single situation. I'm not into really cold colours, although they have their uses. So, you know, and again, they're in the set, so I'm having the full set. These are Caran d'Ache Neo Pastels, which are an oil pastel, which is why they're a little bit more of a mess in here. But that's all right. They go in there. A couple of different, I had a bit of a play with different Ecoline liquid watercolours because some of them are just too bright, so I mix my own. Liquitex markers. A lot of people don't like Liquitex acrylic markers. I really do. I'm going to make a video on my acrylic markers and just pick out a couple of the favourites to give you a bit of a taster of what I've got and what I like about each one. Then learn light fast, don't want light fast, and so forth. And then I'm coming to today's, which is Faber-Castell Goldfarbe Aqua. They have got in this range, I've got a lot, as you can see, there's quite a lot. Actually, just these 2 pages. So there are quite a few of them, and they're all sorts of different colours, which are useful. They can be mixed on the page as well. They're a watercolour marker, so basically when you put them down, you can wet them out, and I can do that for you to show you. However, I rarely use them like that. I just don't like that very much. But I have, again, in another trip to the art store, I managed to get another 6 colours for my collection. So I'm going to swatch those for you today so you can see. And as I said, I've gone through, worked out by the place I normally shop, because they've got pretty much full colour sets of everything. So just write them down, and then what I have to do is I have to find on the barrel Green Ochre 269. Green Ochre 269. Now, the reason why the 269 is important, you'll notice in everything here, there is a number with it. I've done the number because some of them are just weird. I've got a couple of colours here from my last set. Sky Blue Pastel. That was actually listed as Smalt Blue Pastel. And thanks to having the number on there, I could cross-reference it. Light Yellow Glaze was another one. It was put in the art store as Yellow Bright, which is necessarily a totally different colour if you're looking at that. But the number 104 meant that it was the same. So yeah, I think that was the worst of them. Alizarin Madder lacquer in the shop is Alizarin Madder Lake 227. So if you decide to do this sort of thing, and I do, it's a good idea, so I do recommend doing it. Again, cheaper sketchbook, but you can see, and you've got the colours, put the numbers with them when you list them down, because then you can cross-reference them. So first one, Green Ochre. These pens are great. They've got a brush tip at one end and they've got a fine tip at the other, so really nice colours. This is one of my enduring favourites. Yeah, really nice. And as I said, if I was just to grab a brush there and just put some water on there, they are actually watercolours and water soluble. So if you wanted to use them as that, and that can sort of push back some of the brighter colours, like some of these colours here you can see from space. I don't use those sorts of bright colours actually, so it's good to be able to push them back slightly. Okay, the next one is Indanthrene Blue 247, which is up here. Nice purpley blue, useful for birds. I do more birds than anything else sometimes. I have fads actually. Sometimes I'll do just nothing but landscapes, but birds at the moment. Chromium Green Opaque 174. Here again, it's chrome green, not chromium, but chrome green oxide dull. Chrome oxide green dull 174. Get it right in a minute. But on the barrel, it is chromium green opaque 174. So having that number is really, really helpful. If it doesn't matter to you, then it doesn't matter. But the reason it matters to me is because when I'm reordering, I don't necessarily... Like, if I got a colour like this, or even that one, that's beautiful. I would use 2 of those. But this green light here is not like it was on the computer. It rarely is. That's the other thing. And if I bought 2 of those, I probably wouldn't be that pleased about it, because I'll probably not even use 1. Terracotta. Here again, if you had have just asked me what colour's that, I would have said orange. But it's terracotta. So terracotta goes down here. It's actually quite true to the barrel, to be fair. I've got no complaints about that. And as you can see, even on this cheap paper, it's quite smooth. The application's quite smooth. Some of them are a bit streaky, but that's absolutely perfect. Then I have lime. That proves to be a poisonous looking one as well. Yeah, it's quite bright. It's not a colour that I would get a lot of use out of. Put it this way, it's not a colour I'd get a lot of use out of until I need that particular colour, and then I need it. So that's how I justify myself here. Vintage Pink is the lucky last, which is 195, and that goes in here. That's quite nice. I'll use that a lot. And the small one. I don't often use the small ends of these, but every now and again there is a use, and yeah, they can be quite handy. So always store markers horizontally, never in pencil pots. Like I've got my pencils for my Derwents, as you saw before. Don't do that with your markers, because they will dry out one end. And if you use the small end, because these are actually designed for calligraphy and lettering, brush lettering and things like that, if you have them stored with the thick end down, then all of the ink will tend to wick away from the small end, which means that may dry out, and when you need it, you won't have it. Some of them will sort of generate, others just won't. So I store mine horizontally in a drawer or horizontally in a tray, and that's my best advice there. Okay, thank you so much for bearing with me today and staying with me and listening for this long. I think yeah, these are really, it's a useful idea. Like I said, it's not a swatch as such where you would be using it to see how something behaves, although that is a side effect. As long as I'm on bright white smooth paper, the effect will be much the same. But do be aware that if you swap papers radically, you have to swatch on that paper to see what exactly it is you're doing. And I can't be bothered, to be honest. Although I've had a few horrible surprises that way, so perhaps I should get bothered. It's always worth, if you've got a paper, especially if it's expensive, keep a scrap if you've got a scrap. You know, scraps happen sometimes, and if you happen to have one, keep it for swatching on, because you only have to make a small mark just to see what the colour looks like. Okay, have an absolutely fabulous day. Stay warm if you're in the Northern Hemisphere with me. And I shall see you again very, very soon. I think, actually, what I might do for the next one is to show you how I assemble my blackbirds into a spring picture and show you how to do the background. I think that'd be a nice one. So we might do that next. Okay, I shall see you then. Bye.